So picture it's 2002. I am 12 years old. We're sitting down in my family room. My dad's just downloaded a decent quality version of Signs on Kazaa, and I am freaking out, especially the scenes where they're going out and looking at these corn stalks at night. Never would you have convinced 12-year-old me that I would be out in the exact same cornfield at night, but here we are. Welcome back, moviegoers, to another edition of Going to the Movies. Today we're doing the locations from the M. Night Shyamalan movie Signs from 2002, one of my favorite M. Night Shyamalan movies, a movie whose locations I've wanted to visit for a very long time and finally got the opportunity to do it. I'm going to share it all with you, so let's get started.
This seemingly unremarkable cornfield, owned by a small private university in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, was the site of the Hess Farmhouse, the main location for the movie Signs. We're going to check out all the other locations from the movie first, so stick around and we'll come back here later. At the time of this video's posting, there's only really 2 YouTube videos on Signs locations. One was made by my good friend Randomly Randy, who brilliantly documents how he discovered this spot, and the other is a huge YouTuber I've been watching for years and a massive Signs fan, Chris Stuckmann. Highly recommend checking out both those videos after this one. Don't forget to subscribe to them as well. Links are below. Today, Randomly Randy joins me as we hit all the spots from the town. We finally discovered the location of the elusive Reddy house. We potentially solved the mystery of the location of the car accident scene. And of course, we're going to dive deeper into the cornfield and farmhouse location, why it isn't here anymore, and we'll hit a couple other minor things you haven't seen. First up, we're going to head into town. Now, I can't think of anything more minor than this, but stick with me. Most of the driving was filmed on Upper Mountain Road and Bycroft Road in Buckingham Township.
Driving scenes aren't really that interesting to match up, but I did find this sign just by chance, so I wanted to show it to you guys. There's a sign that goes by in the window. So the camera is from the kid's perspective, looking at Mel Gibson in the front seat as he's talking to them, and you see the sign for Camp Nazarene pass right by the window. One of the signs visible in the movie Signs. What do you think about that? In a movie with like 15, 20 locations, I definitely would not have stopped here for this, but there's only a handful in M. Night Shyamalan Signs, so I thought I would stop, and it kind of kicks off the drive into town, so let's go look at more of those locations.
Still on the way to town is another minor location, but interesting because it's aerial, and it's the only location we're visiting today that wasn't filmed in Bucks County. This is in Oxford, Pennsylvania, almost 2 hours from that Camp Nazarene sign.
The park you see in the movie is Oxford Memorial Park. That's where we're in right now. And the church is Oxford Presbyterian. And you're probably wondering, why did they shoot the aerial shot in a different town an hour and a half away? It's the only shot, as far as I know, that wasn't done in Bucks County for the movie. Well, they actually shot a bunch of second unit driving scenes, but this is the only one that made it into the cut for whatever reason. So yeah, came all the way down here just for this shot, and I hope you liked it. Where'd you first see Signs? You saw it at the theater, right?
I saw it at the theater, like an hour from here, and had no idea.
How was the experience?
It was good. I enjoyed it. I love Signs. It's such a good movie. Theater experience was great. It was back in an era where the theater experience in general was better than what it is now. It's an hour and a half to 2 hours, and you paid to watch the movie.
And everybody else did too, and they shouldn't be seeing your phone light in their peripheral. And you know what else? Stop talking.
You're getting angry, Randy.
Randy won't be able to stay angry for too long because we've just arrived in Newtown, Pennsylvania, the site of the Bookstore, Army Recruiter Office, and Pizza Place from Signs, and they're all on the same street. There's also a pharmacy that's implied to be here in the movie, but that's in another town, so we're going to go there after. The family splits off in 3 different ways from the pizza place before meeting back here. But first, we're going to check out the bookstore where the kids head off to. So they go north up State Street, and here I'll point out a little editing trickery because they'd have to circumnavigate the entire globe to reach the bookstore this way. The bookstore is about a block in the other direction, and Signs fans will enjoy a visit to Newtown Book and Record Exchange because it's one of those filming locations that acknowledges its pop culture history. They've got some newspaper clippings up here, as well as some pictures from when it was set up for the movie. According to the lady working there, the teal shelves were added by the production, as well as the burgundy trim on the shelves along the wall. The service desk where they're all watching the TV was also added by the production, but that's no longer there. Rory Culkin was sitting on the floor right around this spot, but as you can see, it's not really worth a matchup anymore with everything blocking the view, but it's still pretty cool that you can see the paint on the window that spells out books. I wonder how often they touch that up. We'll jump back now to the pizza place to follow Joaquin Phoenix's route. He heads the opposite way down State Street from the kids, and this is the correct direction he would have walked to get to the building where we're going next.
So this is the Army recruiter station. They used one of the corners of this building, and where I'm standing right now matches approximately where they took a photo in a newspaper article talking about Joaquin Phoenix walking into the building. So that door right there on that corner where those stairs are leading up to, that's how they would get into where they shot the scene.
This building was a pool hall that had already closed down by the time they shot this scene. It's now office space, and the owner of the building, Tony, works out of the area where Signs was shot. He was really awesome to let me in to see it. He'd actually already left for the day, but he came back to let me film inside, which I really appreciated because I've never seen a matchup with the shot of Joaquin Phoenix in here. Now, they have modified the walls around that corner, so it's a little bit different, but for the most part, it still matches what you see in the movie. The 3 square windows above the large windows on each side of the corner, and the ceiling, you can see, is still the same. You might be thinking it could be any corner of this building, but if you look at each one from the outside, you can tell it's only the corner at South State Street and Penn Street that matches. Before we leave, got to point out some location acknowledgement here as well with the Signs poster in the entrance. Now let's go back to the pizza place one more time to match up that shot in the doorway. Despite how awkward this looks, these people did give us the go-ahead to recreate the shot with the door open. Also, the timing was a little off, so I keyframed the size of the door frame to match the movie shot, which is why you've got this unintentional Hitchcock zoom. All the Newtown spots are within walking distance, and they're really easy to find, but I'll still give you the bearings. So right here is the pizza place. As you may have noticed, it's now a makeup studio, but it was a pizza place at the time of filming. It was take-and-bake style, though, so not exactly as it was in the movie. Over here next to a really cool looking Starbucks is the Bookstore. And about another block down, you've got the building where they shot the scenes with the Army recruiter.
Before we head out to the pharmacy location, I wanted to show you this awesome historical theater building. This is where they screened Signs when it had opened. I don't know if it was an official premiere, but they held a premiere of the movie here, and they use it as a fundraiser. So this building now has healthful air conditioning thanks to the funds raised at the premiere of Signs right here in the Newtown Theatre, which was built in 1831, then rebuilt in 1883. It's very interesting architecture for a movie theater. You can tell this building definitely has some history to it, and just wanted to stop here in charming Newtown. Now let's head to the pharmacy. Now the pharmacy scene is the only scene shot in town, aside from the driving stuff, that was not filmed in actual Newtown. This is about 20 minutes away in Morrisville. Let's go inside and match up some shots.
Burton's Pharmacy's been operating in the Morrisville community since 1948, and they too recognize their movie history with a big Signs poster and some photos of Mel Gibson with the locals, possibly pharmacy employees on the right. I believe they only shot here for one day, and of course there was a huge crowd of fans looking to catch a glimpse of Mel Gibson, maybe get an autograph, and it was reported in a couple newspapers that during a break in filming, he bought a few boxes of popsicles from the pharmacy and tossed them out to the crowd. The employees told us the pharmacy sign was added by the production, as well as the sign in the back that says prescriptions. Since it is an actual pharmacy, they decided to keep them after filming.
We're now standing outside of Reddy's house, which was a really tough location to find. I actually, for the first time, was able to get in contact with a location scout from a movie that I'm doing, but it was through a podcaster. So there's this awesome podcast called On Location Podcast, and they had just interviewed Andrew Ullman, who did all the location scouting for all of Shyamalan's early movies, and he was able to reach out, Jared Cohen, that is, the podcast host, was able to reach out to Andrew, ask him, and they sent me the address. Now, they told me if they give it to me, I can't share the address, and I don't want to annoy these homeowners, especially because the one here is so nice. He just took us on a personal tour, so I'm going to show you some matchup shots and share with you the stories he told us as we were walking around Reddy's house.
The current owners didn't live here when they were filming the movie, but they bought and moved into the house by the time it was released. When they closed on the house, the Reddy mailbox prop was in the basement, so they thought they might get to keep it, but when they moved in, it was apparent the previous owner had taken it with him to Idaho. A small part of it remains, though. If you look closely at that shot, there's a reflector on the post, and there's an antique shop not too far away that has that exact reflector on display. This side of the house is pretty much exactly the same as it was during filming, minus the fence from the first matchup. The other side's been altered a lot more, as you can see here. One of those changes being that the porch is now closed in, making a recreation of this shot pointless. But take a look here at this gravel driveway. That was never actually part of the property. The production added that, and after filming, they left the gravel in a pile not far away, and that's it right here.
One other location-related fact that he shared with us is they shot that cola commercial, the soda commercial that they watch in the bookstore, right out in this field, but I don't think they had permission because according to the homeowner of Reddy's house, the farmer was very mad that they used the field. He came out and he was like, "You can't shoot here, you didn't get permission for this," so they paid him $500, and he was good after that.
The site of the car accident is another spot that's eluded location hunters who love this movie. We do have confirmation the scene was shot at Tyler State Park because in the behind-the-scenes documentary on the Blu-ray, they talk about how they filmed it a couple days after 9/11, and they actually show a call sheet. Tyler State Park's listed right here. Now, pinpointing the exact spot is going to be tricky, so let's start with a breakdown of what we need to be looking for. First of all, this is a paved road that appears to be 2 lanes. Aside from this straightaway leading to some single-lane multi-use trails, the only 2-lane road in the park is the main road here. Based on how the vehicles are parked in that shot, it appears the road is curving to the right. Next detail is there are woods on both sides of the road, so we can rule out any of the curves without tree coverage. Now, it has been over 20 years, and theoretically, they could have chopped down some trees, done some landscaping, but when you look at an image from 1999, 2 years before they shot the movie, you can see the tree coverage is exactly the same today. That leaves us with 3 potential spots. This curve at the south entrance, this one near the boathouse picnic area, and this curve here. Next, let's brighten the image so we can pull some more details. On the left, you'll notice some wooden pylons, and they appear to be consistent with what's actually used throughout the park. We're going to note this group of trees here. There's a strong chance this looks very different now, but just in case, you've got a forked tree to the left, 2 parallel trees here, one with a crook in the middle, and these 2 that kind of form a slanted V shape. Last thing to look at is, of course, the tree that the truck has pinned Graham Hess's wife to. So we'll look at this other shot, and it kind of looks like there's another smaller trunk coming out of the back of the tree, and that's confirmed when you look at this angle taken from the behind-the-scenes documentary. All right, that's enough details to start with, so let's check out the spots. This is spot number 1 at the south entrance, and we got hung up here because it's the only one with the wooden pylons on the left side, but I felt like they didn't really fall into place when trying to match the angle. I came back in the fall to try and compare the skinny trees, but nothing really lined up there either. Next, we checked for the accident tree, and a couple trees looked to be the right size, but none had that smaller trunk in the back, and there was more of a ditch here than what you see in the movie, so I don't think it would have been very easy to get a truck over there. Randy and I both agreed this probably was not it. Spot number 2 is at the other end of Main Park Road, and this is the one I was leaning towards before we actually got there and saw it. It does curve to the right with woods on both sides. Maybe there used to be wooden pylons here to keep cars off that trailhead. Let's look at a fall comparison. There are skinny trees in the right spot, but none of these seem to line up either. This was the only tree that seemed big enough to be the accident tree, but it looks like it might be a different species, and again, there's no smaller trunk. Nothing's really jumping out at spot 1 or spot 2, so that leads us to spot number 3. And spot number 3 we initially didn't consider because it kind of goes downhill, but on camera you can't see that as much, and when you compare side by side in this spot, it pretty much looks flat. There aren't any wooden pylons there on the left, but check out the skinny trees. There's a forked tree, 2 parallel trees. This one doesn't look right, but it could be the one with the crook in it just leaning over time. But then you've got the 2 forming a slanted V shape. There's an entrance to a parking lot there too, but that wouldn't have been visible because the police car and the fire truck are blocking it. We're 0 for 2 on spots with trees that seem like a fit for the crash tree, but the third time's the charm because this looks like exactly what we're looking for. This angle similar to what we saw in the behind-the-scenes documentary. Here's a side-by-side matchup from the movie that assumes this is the correct tree. Again, we don't know if it is, we're just looking here. But here's another matchup where the tree looks very much like the one in the movie. As you can see though, the road doesn't match, and that's because I'm not standing where the camera would have been standing. I'm standing where the truck would have been. That's because there's a bunch of brush and a newer tree blocking the view. So let's do an overlay here just to show everything does fit. And let's talk about that younger tree that's in the way. Obviously, it's not there in the movie, and I have no idea how fast trees grow, but I did find a drive-through time-lapse video posted to YouTube in 2010. The resolution is super low, but I think in this frame you can just see that tree, which seems small enough to assume it wasn't there in 2001. All right, last thing. Remember where the fire truck was sitting? It was on the left side of the road here, and as I said before, if this spot is correct, then there would have been an entrance to a parking lot in between that police car and the fire truck. Well, in the behind-the-scenes documentary, there's a photo of the cast and crew holding a candlelight vigil for 9/11 victims, and they're standing at the back of a fire truck. You can see a semi parked back in the trees. Now, assuming this is the fire truck, and it's already placed where it's supposed to be for the scene, the photo would have been taken about where the crash tree is, but facing away from it towards the parking lot. I didn't take a shot facing in this direction because I didn't notice this until after the trip, so we're going to use Street View here and do our best to match the angle. Here you can see the parking lot and how a semi could be parked back there with that exact same orientation. None of the other spots have any parking lots on the left side of their respective curves. All right, that's all I got. We really got in the weeds here with this location, but this might be the strongest evidence so far at any of the spots that it was filmed here. That being said, I'm still only like 40% sure this is the right spot, so let me know which of the three seems like the strongest candidate to you in the comments, and let's move on to the next location.
We're now in Bensalem, Pennsylvania, and this is the site of the studio. It was a makeshift studio. There was a building where all these apartments now stand, and it was the Adokim building, but it had been vacant. They turned it into a soundstage for M. Night Shyamalan and the Signs production. So all the cast would come in here, the crew, and I think some locals would come and see if they could catch a glimpse of the stars coming out, local media, things like that. But it was a pretty closed set, which is typical for Shyamalan. He doesn't like any details to get out, especially back in those days when it was the height of his Shyamalan powers. But yes, a lot of time spent on the production would have happened right here, somewhere on these grounds where these apartment buildings now stand. Of course, gone.
And it's been gone since around 2007. Here's an aerial view of what that looked like, and if you're wondering what scenes were shot in that building, it would mostly be the interior of the farmhouse. They did a great job making it look like they shot all that at the actual farmhouse, but it was mostly all done here, and you can imagine how much time the production spent here as so much of Signs takes place inside the house. The interior for Reddy's house was done here as well when Hess cuts off the creature's fingers. And with that, it is finally time to go check out the cornfields.
All right, guys, we made it to the cornfields of Signs, and there's corn here. It's not quite as tall as when it was in the movie. But the path I'm walking down now should lead me exactly to where the house was in the movie. And so this part is curving a little bit. That means it was probably about right here exactly.
Our first matchup here shows the back of the house, and it's facing north. They did scout real farmhouses, but eventually decided to build their own, which is why it's no longer here. And that's what makes this location so difficult for matchups, but there are two ways to get your bearings. First is a promotional image that shows an aerial view of the house. You can see a teardrop-shaped driveway leading to the house, which is backed up against this curve. All that sort of forms a triangle with the crop circles and the tree line here. The second way to figure out where you are is this satellite image from December of 2002, just over a year after shooting wrapped. And fortunately, you can still see the impression of the set. All credit to Randy for finding this. He knew it was filmed on land owned by Delaware Valley University, and he scanned through old satellite images for a long time until he finally found it. That's all detailed in his video, which is linked in the description. But the teardrop-shaped driveway is here. You can kind of see the crop circles, but it's very faint. And then right here's that distinct tree line forming our triangle. There's also a big circle over here, but we're going to come back to that. Let's explore the area.
All right guys, so the way that the field is laid out, it's a big cornfield and then it has these sort of concentric curves running through it, and it's the second one down where the house was located. I'm in their backyard. So I'm near like where the dogs would hang out, where he had to kill the dog because it was gonna attack his little sister because the aliens were making the animals go crazy. And there is one shot I could kind of match up. I'm gonna have to reach up over the corn, but this shot of Rory Culkin climbing up onto the car, you can see a tree line behind him and a little white house on the right side.
Here's another matchup looking in the opposite direction toward the line of crop circles. Again, just a tiny bit of tree line showing, but just trying to get what matchups we can. I realize the tree line doesn't look exactly the same here, and some of you will say, yeah, obviously it's been over 20 years, but I've done older movies where the tree line has looked almost exactly the same, but comparing this shot with this image of Shyamalan checking out the field really shows the little differences in the tree line over time. Now let's talk about that mystery circle from the satellite image.
If you look at the 2002 aerial image, there is one random crop circle on its own off to the side. That was over there, and I'm pretty certain that was put there so that they wouldn't have to walk the actors all the way through all this corn to get to their main hero crop circle, and they could just film the scenes right over there. And that was confirmed because I did the matchup. The tree line still matches. Slightly different, but you can tell it's the same over there. And yeah, this is the field. Pretty cool to be out here, especially when there's corn. All right guys, well, it's a few months later now. It's late October and the corn is gone. I wanted to show you the before and the after, because of course we want to see it with corn because it's science, but I think it's a little bit easier to figure out where everything is without it. Also, it's not 1,000,000 degrees anymore.
Without the corn, you could stand exactly where the house was, rather than only being able to walk through those curved pathways. That made it easier to match up this shot of the front of the house from when Cherry Jones is there as the police officer. You can see that part of the tree line that sticks out towards the house in the background of this shot, so it helps with the lineup. I confirmed on Google Earth that there are some newer trees here when you're facing away from the house, but I was able to figure out that this tree is the one you can see in the background of this shot of Cherry Jones about to leave. And here's the reverse angle, and you're just going to have to trust me on this one. The tree line looks very different now, but it is the correct direction. And with that, I thank you for checking out this video. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more movie locations. If you want to get in touch, message me over on Instagram, and we will see you in the next video.